What's going on, everybody? We're the Sim Fanatics, Chris Adams,
Robert Adams,
and we're here to let you know that we are hosting, along with Tim Sim, the fan meetup for the Schmoedown Live in Houston.
That's right. This is going to take place on Friday, May 17th from 7 p.m. till whenever we're ready to pass out at Timeout Number 1, which is a sports bar that just so happens to be in the same parking lot as the Joke Joint, which just so happens to be the place that Mark Ellis is doing stand-up that night at 7:30 and 10 p.m.
Mighty convenient.
Yeah, so if you're not watching Mark Ellis perform Yuck Yucks, feel free to come over and join us at Timeout Number 1 for drinks and fan fun.
Yes, and also, there will be a group of us who will be going to his 10 o'clock show, so if you want to wait and go then, you can go with a group of us there. And, we're looking forward to it. We hope to see you at the fan meetup.
And as always,
let's get ready to Schmoedown.
Later.
See ya.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Schmoedown Rundown. Introducing first, KRISTIAN and the host of the Schmoedown Rundown, Brad Gilmore.
What's up, movie trivia Schmoedown fans? Welcome to the Schmoedown Rundown, the official show for the movie trivia Schmoedown. My name is Brad Gilmore, but you might know me by another name. You might know me as The Boat.
Who?
Hashtag The Boat.
Who?
Hashtag The Boat.
Who?
Hashtag best of all time. Hashtag Brad's opinions are true. Hashtag boat life. Hashtag I want a boat.
Did you say you're the boat? I didn't hear that the first time.
The Boat.
Okay.
Yes, I did. I happened to say that. Shout out to my man in Chicago, Illinois, who's just scarfing down a McDonald's quarter pounder with bacon. My man Frank Janish.
It was pretty good, and I'd do it again. So, I
haven't had McDonald's since 2012.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, I decided I wasn't going to eat McDonald's, but I eat all the other ones. So I don't understand what the point of it was. But now I'm 7 years in, so it's like I can't just abandon it after 7 years.
True. Isn't like 7's like a good luck number? Isn't it's a very biblical number?
It is a biblical number. Also, 7 years is the amount of time it takes for gum to go through your system or something like that, right?
Oh wow, so I'm due. Okay.
You're due. You're due. You're due.
I'm due.
Also, our producer extraordinaire, Mr. Chris Clark. Chris, how you doing, man?
Exhausted. Working at a movie theater this weekend has been a very, very interesting experience due to Endgame, but we're hanging in there. We're going to rock this sucker to the end of time, Brad. I feel like I haven't said that in a long time.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
I know. It's been a minute. Now, we did get a few comments, Frank Janish, that people wanted to hear our Avengers Endgame review, and I think we're going to have to set up a date to do that. Not tonight.
Sure. No.
We're not going to do it tonight. But we're going to do that here maybe this week, maybe next week, sometime soon.
Yeah,
and we'll put that out there. We'll put that out there for everybody because I had a lot of thoughts about it, and I would love to share them. But I think there's still probably an appropriate spoiler ban up right now. I don't think we should.
Yeah, I think I saw Joe and Anthony Russo. They were on Good Morning America, and I think they said their spoiler ban comes up it expires Monday. So if you're listening to this on the weekend, that Monday, according to them, I guess
everybody should have ample time to have.
Yeah. I think they're taking into account people like Chris, who worked at theater for a week, 2 weeks, So I think that's nice. That's nice.
That's nice of them.
Where I work at Regal, there's like a 2-week hell week of where it's just constantly busy. I would say 2 weeks after the fact too. So yeah, I think he's correct.
Okay, so Monday. Y'all follow me on Twitter at Brad Gilmore because I'm going to be going crazy. If the Russos say it's okay, I'm going to be saying all kinds of stuff. So mute me if you have to, but I'm going to be around. Don't block me or unfollow me because I need my ratio to stay up. But you can mute me for the time being. Frank, we have a lot to talk about today. There was 2 matches this week. One had a stipulation added to it. The other one was a 5-round championship fiesta for the Movie Trivia Schmoedown Singles Championship. We're going to talk about it. But first, we got to talk about something going down May the 18th right here in Houston, Texas, the best city, I think, in the world. I don't know. I mean, I would say it's pretty high up there for me. But going down at the Booker T World Gym Arena, you're going to have the Movie Trivia Schmoedown live We're going to see Double Toasted versus the Founding Fathers. You're going to see the Civil War. Action Army collides. Ben Bateman, Andrew Guy, one-on-one inside of the squared circle. For all you squares out there who don't know what a squared circle is, it's another name for a ring. Don't know why they call it that, but it's called a squared circle. And you can come see them interact inside of the ring, going down, like I said, once again, May the 18th. You can go get tickets at the Schmoedownlive.com. Frank Janish and Chris Clark, I'm hearing they are both going to be there. So we're going to be doing two things. We're going to be doing two things when we're in Houston, Texas. We're going to be recording a movie trivia Schmoedown Rundown podcast live inside the Booker T World Gym Arena. We're going to do that, a special episode inside the studio, Booker T and I's radio studio. We're going to be doing it there. And there's been a lot of talk a few weeks ago, maybe about 2 months ago. I think this challenge was thrown out. And TikTok, Janish, TikTok is on the clock.
Yeah.
You, me, 3. Right? This is going to be our third rundown Schmoedown. And you have yet to beat me.
That's true.
You have yet to beat me. And
if
you don't remember, I did win the Back to the Future Movie Trivia Schmoedown Championship of the World. And it will be on the line come May the 18th in the All Oceans Invitational. Frank Janish and I are going to be breaking out all the Oceans movies from the very first one in the 1960s with the Rat Pack all the way up until Oceans 8 with Sandra Bullock and a couple other people who were in the movie. Rihanna, by the way, on Instagram, great follow. Just throwing that one out there. Just a tremendous follow. And we're going to be breaking all those movies down. It's going to be 3 rounds. Maybe it's going to be 5 rounds. I don't know, but we're going to be doing that one in Houston,
3.
Texas. Well, we might do 5. I don't know.
3.
It might be 3.
Could be 2. You never know.
It might be an Iron Man match. We don't know yet. We're going to figure it out.
No.
But that's all going down.
That'd be interesting. Now that you mention it.
Yeah. Iron Man matches have been seen to have risen in popularity within the league. Is that your favorite stipulation match?
No, actually.
Really? You don't like the Iron Man?
And I like the theory of an Iron Man match, and I like the idea that every Iron Man match could go down the way it went down with Ken Knapsack and Sam Witwer. But that's just not the case, because when we had Patriots and Above the Line, there really wasn't any tension there for me. There wasn't any doubt in my mind Above the Line was going to win it. So I think you have to be very specific with who you put in an Iron Man match. You got to know that they're like, we'll reference the Bibbiani Murrell match. Those two guys, if I saw them in Iron Man match, I'm sold. But I need to know that both sides of the table are going to be pretty heavily even in terms of movie trivia knowledge. Otherwise, it's not that great. I like but
Harry and Cody in the Jurassic Park match, or the movie
got to be evenly matched.
Dates.
That's the only way it really works to get the optimal result.
So we've seen an Iron Man match. We've seen team matches. We've seen singles matches. We've seen the free for all, which is like a Royal Rumble-esque match. What could they do next? What kind of stipulation? I've actually pitched the empty arena match concept, where no fans, no audience, no lights, no cameras. It's just literally, just them at the desk, one host asking all the questions, lights dimmed out. You know what I mean? Spotlights just on the two.
How would we see just on the spotlight?
Oh, just spotlights on the competitors.
Gotcha.
Make it real intimate, and eliminate some of the pressure, and just see how it is in a one-on-one empty arena scenario.
Would that eliminate pressure? I don't know.
I think so. Because you've been out there, and I had the privilege of sitting at the desk at one time, and there is a pressure about it. It's like, okay, I got to perform, I got to be funny, I got to be a little witty,
True.
I got to put on a show. If you don't have to worry about all those things, then maybe you can focus more on the movie trivia. You don't hear this guy reacting, or that person reacting, or that one cat calling you. It could present a different dynamic. I would like to see it at least once. Any other stipulations that you can think of that would be fun, either one of you?
What about like a tag match where you have 3 competitors? One does round 1, one does round 2, and one does round 3. It could be a different league, not the team league, a tag team league, and just play to everybody's strengths. I don't know if that
we've talked about 3 versus 3. I
yeah.
like the concept of the Survivor Series kind of match where you can get eliminated, you can tag in. I mean, there'd be logistical things you'd have to figure out, obviously. But think about this. Think about if you saw Who's the Boss, and it's Bateman, Riley, and Finstock, and they ask, Riley a question, let's say, about one of the Rocky movies that he doesn't know. Well, just like you have 3 repeats in a regular match, maybe you could have 3 tags. And Riley goes, I don't know this one. You tag in Finstock. Finstock sits down. He gets to answer the question, and he goes until he needs to tag out. You see what I'm saying?
It's interesting because I feel like I've heard this from somewhere, from someone, something like this. And I don't remember exactly. That's all I'll say.
Okay. Don't know what that means, but we'll move on. May the 18th, once again, going down in Houston, Texas. Go buy your tickets at theschmoedownlive.com. I will be there. Frank will be there. Chris will be there. Booker T will be there. All the people from the Schmoedown universe will be in attendance. So it's not going to be something you want to miss out on. I'm telling you. And then we're all going to get Whataburger after. It's going to be a great day. Let's talk about the matches that was this week, though, because we had 2 of them. One, like I said, a stipulation match that went down. And then the other one was a big championship match. Let's talk about the first match first. Oh, actually, before I do that, season 2 of the Movie Trivia Schmoedown Classic Feed podcast is up. By the way, y'all go check it out.
Listen. Oh,
it is a fun list. I'm not all the way through it yet. I went through all season 1. I really enjoyed it. So I'm halfway through, or maybe a third of the way through season 2. I'm going to burn through that one here pretty quickly. So go get that. But let's talk about the first match. It was Josh McCougar versus Paul Oyama. We're going to talk about this, but first we got to talk about this cutscene. Grace Hancock. She's made her way back into the Movie Trivia Schmoedown League. She's aligned with corruption, trying to figure out exactly what's going on here. And she and Emma Fyfe had this kind of interaction where they set up a match with Late to the Party, Frank.
Yeah.
Do you know any more about this? It seems like we're going to see Late to the Party have to make that drive back from Arizona.
Yeah.
It's going to be fine because we haven't seen them in the Movie Trivia Schmoedown sometime.
True. It's been a while. We just recently saw them separately at the free-for-all. So maybe that was kind of like a tune-up, not the best tune-up in the world. But in a team match, we got to remember they took out Critically Acclaimed.
Sure.
So it's one of the biggest upsets of all time, and it does interest me. It is intriguing to know that they're going to be showing up here. I don't know when exactly. Did they say when? I can't recall.
I don't think so.
But nonetheless, they're going to show up, and I'm really curious to see how they make a comeback here because they're 1-1. And they had an amazing match taking down a Critically Acclaimed, and then their follow-up match was against Wolves of Steel, and they got hammered because at that time Wolves of Steel was on a warpath, unfortunately, that they just ran into above the line and lost that one. But Wolves of Steel actually, I think, statistically played their very best game they ever had against Late to the Party. So Late to the Party, in a sense, ran into a buzzsaw. So it'd be interesting to see how they come back and fare in the league now that it's changed a lot.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. So we'll see what that is. And we're still trying to figure out who Stacey Howard's partner is going to be within corruption. Still some teases. I still have no idea, and I'm sure we'll find out here very soon when we see them in action. Now let's talk about the match, though, that actually was here. Let's talk about Josh McCougar versus Paul Oyama. Josh McCougar accepted a stipulation from I almost said from Frank Janish, from Sam Levine, who said, look,
just Sam Levine, you're right, yeah.
If you can beat Paul Oyama in singles, I'll kind of lessen your sentence here, and you'll be good to go. If you lose to him, I'm going to tack on a little extra time.
Yeah.
I think it was another month, right? Is that what so it was another month that he was going to have to tack on for Josh McCougar, the sanction of the Wild Man. And I'm going to be honest with you. Josh McCougar, Blue Fairy, obviously he made it to the final season 1. We reference that all the time here, but I did not like his chances of beating Paul Oyama. We've only seen Paul Oyama once. He went against the Kid. We saw him again at the free-for-all. Had good showings both times. I initially was actually a little bit let down by Paul Oyama's performance in the free-for-all until Christian and I had a discussion about it. He said, man, go back and look at actually what he did. He actually did a lot.
Yeah.
It may seem like he was there for a short
2
amount of
rounds.
time.
He missed 2 questions, I think, or 1 question. So, and he just kind of got screwed by the round that he just happened to be in, and sometimes that happens. So, yeah.
That's the dynamic of the free-for-all. So Paul Oyama in both appearances has been very impressive in all of his play. So we saw him going into this match with Josh Makuga, and I didn't feel good for the Wild Man. I thought that Paul Oyama was going to wrap this one up pretty easily.
Yeah, and that's not exactly how it started. It started off way differently than I thought it was going to start.
Yeah, round 1 goes off. It ends 7-7 in a tie, which, by the way, I just made a mental note of it. The round 1 questions for this round, I found them to be kind of difficult. Maybe I know I'm not at the level of most people in the movie trivia Schmoedown universe, but I found them to be like, well, would have no idea of that one. There's a couple of them that I knew, but I just thought that on average they were a little bit harder than most. And I'm wondering if that's some sort of growing trend just because of the amount of questions that have to be asked. You're going to have to get a little bit more specific as time goes on. I don't know. I could be looking too much into it, but I thought they were a little bit more difficult than normal. But in 7-7 in a tie, what did you think, Frank Janisch, of round 1?
Paul did exactly what I thought he would do. I think he's really good first round player. He's shown in his first match and even at the free for all, despite being knocked out fairly earlier than anyone anticipated, or certainly he anticipated. But it's Makuga. He is up and down. Like I said, we've said he's a 500 career player, and he can have moments of brilliance. I think people forget about his match against Nick Scarpino last year, where he missed 1 question. Or 2 questions, I think it was 1. But nonetheless, it was like the best performance he ever had. I mean, ever. And for him to throw up 7 points is a bit uncharacteristic, but he is a player who's capable of such things. He's done it a few times. And I mean, he had a massive comeback against Finstock, and he had a huge match against Scarpino. And for him to bust out 7 points here, yes, it is surprising, but it just reminds you, you never know what you're going to give this guy. It could be his best day or his worst day. And, if you're on the other end of his best day, you better hold on.
Absolutely. And for him to end up 7-7 in a tie, like you said, we were both pretty much surprised by that. But then he defers to Paul Oyama. Oyama spins classics and stays with it. He stays with the classics, which, again, he's like how old? 14?
I don't know. I think he's about to graduate college. So
15?
But that's yeah. But that's a statement. That's really a statement choice. Like classics. I mean, because look, we all know that the rest of the league skews on the older side, and there's very few younger people around his age, I should say, like Chance and him, and even Brendan Meyer and a few others. So for him to take classics, I was like, okay, let's see what you got, because this could backfire real quick. And there's nothing more than I think veterans of the league love to see the young guns who go around strutting their stuff and put their foot in their mouth. And this certainly could have turned out to be the case. It could have been. But
he goes 6 for a possible 8 points. Like you said, a statement right there. He's up 13-7 as Makuga goes up and spins coming of age, and he stays on it. Pretty weird. I think coming of age is a weird category, man, because I don't really even know what it means. I know it means like a teen film, right? But that
more or less, yeah.
To me, isn't that more broad? I think when people think of coming of age movies, they think of like the John Hughes variety of films, but those aren't always that, and there's so much more. I think there's a lot of movies that you probably wouldn't even think are coming of age movies that could be lumped into that category. Chief among them, Back to the Future is kind of a coming of age film. Right, in a lot of ways.
Especially the first one, yeah.
Especially Back to the Future 1. So I'm just saying that is kind of a broad category for me. And Josh Makuga, he goes. He gets
he goes and he went.
He goes and he went. Makuga gets 2 out of a possible 8 points, and Oyama actually gets a steal. So that puts Paul Oyama up 14-9.
Yeah, but he only gets 1 point. And so that's very interesting. He's only able to come up with 1 point.
Well, because he's still coming of age too.
True. I forgot. You're right. Thank you, Brad.
Yeah, you have to come of age before you can answer questions about the movies.
Right. That's silly me. Yeah.
Yeah, come on, Frank. Where are you? But for him to be up 14-9, Josh Makuga, I mean, man, that's 5 points. It's happened before, but Not often.
It is such a deflating thing, especially for Makuga. I mean, he just had 7 points in the first round. And then to only get 2 in the second round.
He should have respun. He should have respun. I think that he felt more confident in coming of age. And I don't know if Josh Makuga stayed on coming of age just because, Oyama, he stayed on Classics his first spin. Mm-hmm. I'll show this twerp.
Maybe he was trying to show
this whippersnapper.
Maybe he felt like it was not a great category for Paul. So, I mean, that could be part of it. I don't know.
Well, we move into round number 3. Makuga, man, didn't do so well. He got TKO'd, coming back a little bit, getting 4 points, I think, or 3 points, 3 points in the round. Yeah, getting his 3-pointer. But still, Paul Oyama doesn't even have to go in round number 3. Match ends TKO 14-12. Josh Makuga suspended for another month now. Is that correct?
That's about yep. So I don't know what he's gonna do in that month. I don't know. Maybe drink more wine, I guess, or defile some other kind of belts. I don't
know. Well, speaking of that, unfortunately for the mild man or the wild man, however you referred to him on any given Sunday, he will be out for at least a little while. Now, does this mean he's suspended in just singles, or is he suspended in teams as well? I can't remember what the clarification on that. I think he's still allowed to compete in teams.
It sounds like it's league-wide. I don't think he can compete in anything. I don't think he can compete in anything because while the suspension took place initially after a team match, because the
and MF5 was the one who sanctioned him initially. So.
And then Sam follows up with, I'll tack on 1 more month, and that's through a singles match. So I would have to assume he's suspended across both leagues. And he won't even dare enter Geekdom, so we don't have to worry about that. So.
Well, we saw a cutscene, though, between Jay Washington and Sam Levine. And Jay was he's saying, I want Janine the Machine versus Kalinowski. I want this to happen. And it was confirmed. We know this is going to happen now. Janine the Machine versus Mike Kalinowski. A bigger task, I think, for Mike Kalinowski than some people are realizing. Because Janine the Machine, especially in New York, man, I know she came up short in that one, but such a great performance. And the crowd was behind her. She had the energy. She's got the passion for it. I think this match against Mike Kalinowski is a great match.
Yeah, and you talk about just coming up short with Janine in New York. There's plenty of players who go through this and they just come up short. They just come up short, and then they have their time. You look at William Bibbiani. I know he started off really hot, but he's had an up and down career thus far, and eventually he got to the mountaintop and was a champ. And you look at another player like Ben Bateman. Singles hasn't really gone the way he wanted to, but he's rectified it in teams. Even Kalinowski, when you look at Inner Geekdom, he was coming up just short. He put in the work, and what had happened? He ended up with the belt. So players who stick with it, who are really dedicated to the game, who come up just short, eventually their time comes. Whether or not they make it to, whether or not they win a title, that's another story. But those players, at the very least, were competitive at the top end of the table, and Janine can certainly be one of those players. And could Mike Kalinowski be the first one to find out if the work that Janine's been putting in, is he going to be a victim of that? And, I can't wait to see this one. This is a really intriguing match.
I think it is an intriguing match. I think Mike Kalinowski has to be the favorite, though. As good as Janine the Machine is, I think he's still got to be the favorite just based on his pedigree.
I would, yeah.
Being a former champion, I think you always have to put a former champ in the favorite column. But what do you guys say?
Well, this is a singles match, right? So
yes,
it's not like, he had a really horrible showing in that number 1 contenders match way back beginning of last year, and then hasn't been seen since. So I think, yes, he's a favorite, but he's a slight favorite just because Janine has been playing throughout and has been pretty good. But like I said, like you said, coming up just short. So I think, yes, Kalinowski is the favorite, but not by much. Not by much.
We're going to have to see that. But Sam Levine had an interesting moment here, and he kind of repeated the moment into the next match, which we're going to get to here in a second, the championship match from this week, the 5-round classic between Dan Murrell and William the Beast Bibbiani. But Sam Levine's desire for the championship, and then he makes a joke that he ends up making or the joke that he ends up making in the scene with Dan, belt polish.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that scene with Dan Murrell. Dan Murrell is there. We see him and Sam Levine having an interaction. Dan Murrell's got what was then the current Movie Trivia Schmoedown championship around his shoulder. And Sam Levine's like, hey, damn, got something for you, brother. Here we go. The brand new Movie Trivia Schmoedown Championship of the World. We had seen them teased on the TriviaSD.com website. We saw preliminary images of them. And Dan Murrell gets his new championship belt for the singles league. And Sam Levine, again, is like, hey, if you kind of make it out of this match today with Bibbiani, and you still got that belt, I might have to do something about it.
Yeah.
And Dan was like, oh, yeah? Like, what do you mean? I mean, and Dan's thinking he's challenging me for the title? Is Sam Levine going to come out of retirement? Sam Levine's like, yeah, I'm going to have to do something about it. It's going to need belt polish, What do you call that?
Belt polish.
Commission.
Yeah. Commissioning.
Commissioning. That's what he said. Commissioning. What do you call that? Commissioning. So Sam Levine gives Dangerous Dan Murrell the brand new Movie Trivia Schmoedown Championship. And Frank Janish, we're going to take a quick siesta here. We're going to take a quick break because I'm going to throw it to a special package that we put together looking at all three brand new Movie Trivia Schmoedown Championships. I had the distinct pleasure of working with the craftsman of these title belts. He's located here in Houston, Texas, and so I got to see these titles before anybody. So let's roll the package.
Hey, Schmoedown Rundown here. We got a little special sneak peek at something really awesome. So I wanted to take this time here during the show because these championships are going to be making their debut in the Movie Trivia Schmoedown. I want to give you a little bit of background about the titles. Christian Harloff called me, and he said, hey, Brad, hey, Boat. That's what he calls me. He calls me the Boat. He says, hey, Boat. I want to make brand new Movie Trivia Schmoedown championships. And I said, okay, yeah, that's an awesome idea. And then he said, hey, do you know anyone who can do it? I said, yeah, I do. Scott and Tony, Brutalia Belts, they did all of our championships for Reality of Wrestling. I think they would be the best people to do this job. So I reached out to Scott. Scott said, let's do it. He and Tony started working on it, and then the amazing, incredible Brian Ward started putting together designs. Brian, Christian, and I kind of looked at the designs. I added some input. Christian had the brain. He had the brain. He had the idea, the vision. That's the word I was looking for to do these championships, and then Brian Ward did what Brian Ward does. He creates incredible stuff. So Scott Bruce, the man who was responsible, Carson, this is my cat, Carson, who was responsible for helping create these championships. He lives here in Houston, Texas. So the titles were completed, and I have them in my possession before anyone else. I am the very first person from the Schmoevillian universe, from the Schmoedown universe, to see these things. So I wanted to share these with you. So we're going to go through these championships one by one. I'm going to tell you a little bit about them and the process of making them. Really cool stuff. So first off, I'm going to go with the Schmoedown. Carson, get down. I'm going to go with the Schmoedown Team Championships. Okay, I'm just going to show you one because they both look identical. But here we go. This is the Schmoedown Team Championship belt. Look at that thing. I mean, is that not beautiful? Get that in the frame there. As you see, it has a classic late 80s to late 90s WWF Tag Team Championship vibe to it. There's just a little bit closer shot. It has the seal of the Movie Trivia Schmoedown as well as the Teams League. This is one of two belts. It weighs, I'd say, about 7 pounds, 8 pounds. It's a stacked metal. You see the stacking there for the Movie Trivia Schmoedown logo. A beautiful title belt. Great leather inlay on it. Great leather work. So that is your team championship belt. I just wanted to show you. Okay, let's move on. This next one is my favorite of the titles. It's the heaviest one of the bunch. I think this one weighs at about 10 pounds. 10 pounds of gold, brother. And this is the Movie Trivia Schmoedown Inner Geekdom Championship belt. Look how beautiful this championship is. This is a gorgeous title based on the classic WWF Intercontinental Championship belt. You see the Movie Trivia Schmoedown logo lined in green, as well as on this side of the title belt, you see the Inner Geekdom, and you see the top two stacked plates up there. The top two, one is the Starship Enterprise, and the other one is, of course, the DeLorean. I wonder who had that idea. And then we move on to the characters themselves. You have Darth Vader, you have Captain America, Gandalf, that is Wonder Woman, and Harry Potter. It's a beautiful title belt. You see that it's a stacked plating. I don't know if you can really tell. Yeah, you see it's stacked plating. A lot of work went into this championship. Beautiful title belt. Probably my favorite of the bunch. And then, of course, you have the granddaddy of them all. You have the one and the only brand new Movie Trivia Schmoedown Singles Championship belt. And I'm looking at this thing. I'm going to take a second just to take it in. This is an incredible championship belt based on the 90s Attitude Era World Heavyweight Championship for the WWF. This championship belt is full size. This is the same size that you see Stone Cold Steve Austin or Triple H or The Rock. These are the same size belt that they had. It's about, I'd say, about 9.5 to 10 pounds. Beautiful center plate. I mean, this is a gorgeous championship belt. So there you go. These are your new Movie Trivia Schmoedown championship belts. The only question now is, who are going to be the lucky people to have them? Who are going to hold them over their shoulder? We're going to have to find out. But I just want to take this time here on the Schmoedown Rundown to share them with you. These are beautiful. Now I'm going to put these back in the box, and I'm going to send them all the way to Los Angeles, California, so they can be worn and donned by the competitors in the greatest game ever played, the greatest league out there, the Movie Trivia Schmoedown.
And we're back here on the Schmoedown Rundown. That was a look at all three brand new Movie Trivia Schmoedown championship belts. Well, technically four, but two of them are identical. The team championships are identical.
Cool.
And might as well talk about after this match, the championship match. We saw Rachel Cushing receive her Inner Geekdom title and her team championship, and it was a very emotional affair, Frank.
Dude, that caught me off guard. When the scene first started, I felt like something was going on with Emma, and I couldn't really like what's going on? Is she? And I was like, I don't know. And then the scene really gets, starts moving along, and then it was very sweet to see, Emma give the new belts to Rachel, who's an icon in this league, and giving her road and everything that it means for a woman to have a belt in this league, in this corner of the internet, the movie fandom, and all that. So, and for Emma to give the team and the Inner Geekdom belt over to Rachel, dude, I was super surprised. I don't know about anybody else. I was super surprised how emotional I actually got watching that scene. I was like, wow, I cannot believe what I'm feeling here. And we're just bringing new belts in here. But Emma and Rachel, I think, really understand the significance, and that conveyed obviously through the screen, at least to me, about, this is, and it's really nice because Emma's now a commissioner, not a manager, and able to be there was there initially to win the belt with them. And now as commissioner, able to give a new belt, I guess a quote unquote proper belt, especially in Inner Geekdom, to Rachel, who deserves it. It was a really great scene, and I wouldn't be surprised if that makes the ballot for Moment of the Year. Honestly,
I even think about that. I mean, it was a very powerful moment. I was super caught off guard.
Yeah,
I mean,
I was like, whoa.
I think part of it is, especially working, in wrestling, like you have championship belts around you all the time. I just had that, this Back to the Future Rundown Schmoedown Championship of the World. You're around championships all the time, and they're looked at a lot of the times like props, right? I mean, because it's just to tell it in really the long grand scheme of things, it's a prop on a show, And the Movie Trivia Schmoedown slightly different because they're legitimately won. Unlike wrestling, where it's a little predetermined and we understand who's going to be champion. But, even when in wrestling, we had somebody win the Reality Wrestling Championship the other day, and he had been there for 7 years, and, he finally won the title. And even though it was set up and planned and written for him to win the title, he still got so emotional in the ring winning it because it's still a recognition of you did something. You did something, either in that sport or in this league, the movie trivia Schmoedown. You did something. And we're recognizing the accomplishments that you've had in the league. And I think that between that moment at Reality Wrestling and this one with Rachel Cushing and Emma, it puts those championships back into focus and kind of made me appreciate them a little bit more of like, wow, these are meaningful. And these are meaningful to people. Like people aspire to hold these things. It's not just, oh man, this will look cool for a shot on Instagram. This is the movie trivia Schmoedown Inner Geekdom Championship. And I think the fact that they got emotional over that and the team championship show the value the titles have in the players' eyes.
Yeah, and the thing also what it does, when you look at the belt, especially I think as the belt holder, you look at it and you remember the journey you took to hold that belt, and that can get very emotional. I think I don't know how Emma felt about she wasn't necessarily Rachel's manager when she won Inner Geekdom. I think maybe that was a moment maybe she wished she could have had, but nonetheless, being the commissioner and having some sort of opportunity to present her with just a really great, amazing-looking belt, a new belt that really signifies what Inner Geekdom is, I think that was a really cool moment for Emma to share with Rachel, because Clark, Rachel, and Emma, and even Andrejko, the Five Club, they went on a journey together to get those belts. And now that they're broken up, but yet they're still together in some way. And so for them to share a moment like that, I think it was really cool the way that it was set up. So
and what do you think though, by the way, of the championship belts? Now you see them kind of in action, not just an inanimate object. You see them in action. How do they look? I mean,
quite honestly, like the belt holders look like royalty. I mean, they look like royalty, like legit. And I think while a belt obviously strapped around your shoulder brings a level of validity to the league and everything that we're doing in the league, but when you have these new ones that were specifically made for the divisions to be held for the champions, and the way that they look, the energy, the time that went into them, it means a whole lot more and a lot more. It gives a lot more validity, I think, in ways that it didn't have before. Because when you look at it, you can't. I cannot believe that there's not anybody in that office that day or in the studio that day that looked at it and go, I really want to hold that belt. But it's got to be the right way. Like, I can't touch it. It's one of those Stanley Cup things. One of the, I can't touch it. I need to earn it the right way to hold that beauty. So, I got to believe that's going on, especially with Roca.
Oh man, I actually had a little text exchange with Roca about the belts, and yeah, it's very interesting. We'll see. See if he's eyeing that championship.
Honestly, he's the first person that came to my mind. He's like, God, he wants that belt.
I need it. I need it. Dan Murrell becomes the first person in movie trivia Schmoedown history to hold all three iterations of the movie trivia Schmoedown singles championship, the old big gold belt, which for some reason I feel is most synonymous with John Roca. When I think of that big gold belt, I think of John Roca for some reason, just holding it up. Horseman!
I think because he was also more visible with the belt at the time, because Murrell, he couldn't have quite the time commitment that he has now with the league. So I think you saw him less with the belt. Roca, however, was always around, so he's always carrying that damn thing. So I think maybe that's why.
But then Murrell had that one. He had what was then the current one, the one that Josh McCouga defiled and rubbed between his legs. And now you have the brand new, Attitude Era edition of the movie Trivia Schmoedown Singles Championship. Dan Murrell, the first to hold all three. Let's talk about this match, though. Dangerous Dan Murrell versus William the Beast Bibbiani. Frank Janisch going into it. For me, it was a pick-em fight. I think Dan Murrell was obviously the favorite, but anything can happen. And Bibbiani's held the title before. I thought it was a 50-50 shot. As crazy as that sounds for Dan Murrell, we saw neck and neck these two guys worth a free-for-all. And now to see them in a singles match in a championship round, 5 rounds, I thought anything could happen. And boy, was it a match to remember. But I thought it was really a 50-50 affair. What'd you think?
Yeah, this match, I think I said it a week or two ago. the way Bibbiani was playing, he was just out of his mind, and I didn't know if he could keep it up. But you have to respect someone's what's the word for it? Someone's, I can't even think right now. Why can't I not think of the word? Someone's, their mojo, their
Stamina?
Their stamina's part of it. Gumption. You gotta respect, just like, he's on a heater. And you don't ever, what's that line in The Hangover? You don't ever walk away from the table when you're on a heater. And you couldn't walk away from Bibbiani. You couldn't doubt him coming into this match, given what he did at Free For All and how he played in that triple threat match, taking down Ethan Irwin and John Roca. There's no way you can take him lightly. So he had all that coming into this match. So rightfully, Murrell was very, I think, cautious towards Bibbiani in terms of not to get overconfident, not to get down on yourself as well, but to really respect Bibbiani in a way that he deserved, due to the fact of all his time in the league and especially the way he was currently playing up to that point.
Oh, I agree with you wholeheartedly. You couldn't really doubt William Bibbiani in the slightest in this match. And I dare ask, Chris Clark, what do you think going into this match? Did you think Bibbiani had this one sewed up, or did you think it was more even than most?
I'll admit it, being the realist that I have to be in this moment, not a fantasy person in a fantasy world. Bibbs was Dan Murrell is a giant. He is one of the best players in this league objectively. He's phenomenal. But what Bibbs had, I think the word, Frank, you were looking for was momentum.
Yeah, there you go.
He was coming in here. He probably did the greatest performance a Schmoedown player has ever had, lasting from beginning to end, from East Coast to West Coast at the free-for-all. That alone cannot be ascertained or demolished. Even after this TKO of a loss, him going into this match just signifies how good of a player he is, and he will continue to be. Yes, going in there were concerns he might lose, but this is Dan Murrell. And what Bibbs did, regardless, has to be commended 110%. And him coming into he tried to rock it, and he did for the most part. So him coming into this match, it was a little bit of there was a thought in my mind he might lose, but it wasn't a thought that bothered me in the slightest.
Well, I was almost convinced that he was going to win, and I'll tell you why. Just because of the trend of belt defenses, right?
Sure.
I mean, you saw Bibbs win, then he lost. Or no, you saw Roca win, then he lost.
Well, Bibbs lost to Roca.
Bibbs lost. Yeah, sorry. Bibbs wins, he loses. Roca wins, he loses. Ethan wins, he loses. Dan wins. Maz is going to say, defenses haven't been that easy in the movie Trivia Schmoedown that we were going to see a loss. And a loss there was not by Dan Murrell. We're going to break it down right now. Just because I watched this match and something occurred to me. There's a lot of things that go into the movie Trivia Schmoedown that make it great. The storylines, the characters, the level of play, the ability by these incredible athletes, if that's the word you want to use. And I think it's an apropos word. They're mental athletes for sure. And then we always know the entrances are a big part of the match. So I have, and I'll take ownership, sometimes overlooked the entrances because I want to get to the level of play, right? I want to talk about the level of play. And Bibbiani is a guy who's known for his entrances. And I said, you know what? This is Bibbs. It's a championship match. He's going to have some crazy entrance. I always forget to talk about his entrances. I'm going to sit here. I'm going to take notes on the entrance so I can come in here today, kill it, review his entrance, kind of give my feedback on it. We can break it down in a little bit more depth because I felt like I haven't lived up to Bibbs's entrances. I haven't lived up to my responsibilities as the host of this show in order to deliver that kind of content to William the Beast Bibbiani and break down what he puts a lot of thought into. Mm-hmm. So I'm there. I'm locked in. I'm watching this match on the iPhone. I'm like, okay, here we are. It's Bibbs' turn. We've gone through all the minutia. I've seen the pre-match interviews. We've broken down all the cut scenes. We've seen the new belts. It's time. And then I see a locker room. I'm confused. I see Bibbiani take a folding chair and turn it backwards and sit down in it. I'm more confused. And then Bibbiani begins to say, I know you're expecting some grand entrance. I was like, yeah, how do you know that? And then he said, because this is Bibbiani and this is a championship match. You should expect something big. And I'm like, that's right, Bibbs. That's right. I'm with you. Give it to me. I'm ready for it. And he goes, but that's not going to happen today. I'm out of things funny to say. Can't reference a movie that everybody loves.
Although he was referencing a movie.
Right. I understand. I can't even think of anything creative to do. I'm spent. So I have only one thing to do today and one thing only. And that's go out there and win. And boom, it throws the steel chair, folds it over, and then Bibbiani walks through the curtain as he says he's going to do, and he's wearing the most badass shirt in movie trivia Schmoedown history. This is the greatest shirt, by the way.
You think so?
In movie trivia Schmoedown. Yes.
I never
absolutely.
really decided to rank them. Maybe we should rank shirts.
Maybe
at
we
the end of
should.
the year. At the end of the year, we should do a rank them.
should.
We'll do that because there needs to be.
So no one else take that idea. We're gonna
No one
wait
else
till
do
the
it.
End of the year, we'll do it.
But still standing
Mm-hmm.
has so many different implications for William the Beast Bibbiani.
Yeah.
Double entendres, all kinds of stuff, and all the things that he's battled through with the third round curse that a lot of people said that he had, and not being able to win the big one. And then back-to-back years, he wins the MVP at the free-for-all. This year he was almost the last man standing, but he went from coast to coast like Chris Clark said. And then in his matches, he's always at an elevated vertical base. William the Beast Bibbiani's still standing t-shirt.
Yep.
Until Christian Harloff comes out with the boat t-shirt. This is the best one in movie trivia Schmoedown history by far. It's the Austin 316 of
Really?
movie trivia
Okay.
Schmoedown shirts. It's so simple, still standing. Biatch. He could have put that on the back and it would have made it even better.
Right.
Biatch. But it's the best shirt in movie trivia Schmoedown history. And by the way, even though it wasn't an elaborate entrance, it's one of my favorite Bibbiani entrances
It
of all
really
time.
is. It really
So
is.
good.
It really is. And honestly, this, like, if he had to choose one at the end of the year, I'm like, he can come up with something great. I mean, there's still how many months left in the year for him to do something, right? So, but if Christian goes to him and goes, you have to pick one of your entries to be on the ballot. Right now, this
is the one.
This is the one. I mean, he's
This
only
is the
done
one.
3 entrances in singles, so of the 3, this is obviously the one. But this one, I think, will stand the test of time throughout the rest of the year. I really do. I think you're right.
It's his best
pun
promo
intended.
too.
Yeah.
It's his best promo. It's the best he's ever done it on the mic.
Mm-hmm.
It was simple. It wasn't over the top. It wasn't zany. It was, look, guys, this is a championship fight. I won that title. I lost that title. Now I want it back. There's only one person who's standing in the way of that. So I'm not going to think about anything else except going out there and winning. This is the best Bibbs entrance ever. Period. I think it's the best one ever. This is my favorite Bibbiani. Okay. Now that we've talked about it, I think amply enough. We'll see if it holds up, if it stands the test of time until the end of the year. We'll see if it does.
Yeah.
But let's talk about, and then Dan Murrell comes out sporting the brand new Movie Trivia Schmoedown Championship belt, which looks beautiful on camera. It really does. Shout out to Scott and Tony again for those belts. Dan walks out, and then he says, you know what? I'm going to stand too. So we had a standing Trivia Schmoedown this week for the championship. 5 rounds. Let's start breaking it down, Frank Janisch. Round 1 ends Murrell 6, Bibbs 5. Bibbs with only 5 points in round number 1. Josh McCuca scored more than that in his match. So did than both of these guys. But was this a little bit lower than his average? What is Bibbs' average in round 1?
Bibbs scores about 7 points, so he is about 2 points below his average. Murrell was right where he usually is at 6 points, so nothing out of the ordinary for Murrell. But Bibbs, even if he just got 6, that'd be fine. But to be 2 points below your average, it was a sign of things. But also relatively speaking, he's only down 1 point to Dan Murrell, so you can't really take too much into that, or read too much into that, because he's only down 1 point, which a lot of people in his position would gladly take to even be within an earshot of Dan Murrell after one round.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't worried too much about it, but I was a little bit thrown off that Bibbs only had 5 points. But let's go into round 2, because this is where things really get interesting. Bibbs goes up and he spins dramas, respins, gets Kevin Smith films, and he does really well in Kevin Smith. He goes 7 for 8, went to multiple choice once, so he gets all his questions correct, does as great as you possibly can in the game. I mean, 1 point shy, I guess, of how much you possibly could. But what did you think of Bibbs round 2?
Yeah, I was curious about him spinning away from drama, but I think maybe because that's a broader, you don't really know what you're going to get. And I think in a match like this, I think you definitely want to narrow down at least your category so you can really focus in. And he got that with Kevin Smith, so I don't know if that was his strategy or not. But whatever the case may be, it worked out for him. He went 4 for 4, like you said, for 6 points. And I noted in the stats segment that this was the 4th match in a row he's gone 4 for 4. So he hasn't given up a steal opportunity in 4 matches. And that's how you make your way to a number 1 title contender match and a singles title shot. So he's really good outside of the Festival Darlings mishap. I mean, he's one of the best players in the second round. I mean, he's one of the best players through the first 2 rounds. I mean, his numbers are like all time up there, along with Ethan Irwin and Rachel Cushing. So they're like the 3 of the best when it comes to the first 2 rounds of a match. So, more of the same from Bibbiani here.
Well, more of the same from Bibbiani and more of the same from Dan Murrell. Dan Murrell spins Stanley Kubrick films, goes 7 for 8, going to multiple choice only once. I mean, they both went with directors, and they both ended up getting the same exact score, 7 of 8. I always thought it would be interesting. I don't know why this thought occurred to me when I was watching this match. I'm like, eventually we're going to have Kevin Smith in the movie Trivia Schmoedown. It has to happen eventually, right? I feel like it has to happen. And, you kind of get to choose your categories a little bit to go on the wheel before the match. I mean, shouldn't he choose Kevin Smith movies? I mean, would that be allowed? I think that'd be a good shot for him. I mean, he would have a good chance of going perfect in round 2. But I move on. Let's go to we're now in the betting round, and this is really interesting. This is the most interesting betting round in history. I mean, Dan Murrell's still up by 1 point. They spin the wheel, or Dan spins the wheel, and it lands on mixed bag.
It is the absolute worst category to get.
Ridiculous.
How the hell do you plan for this round? I mean, I'm asking seriously, what's the strategy here?
Well, I think it always goes into, no matter what even the category is, where you stand, how much of a lead you have, or how much are you behind. I actually thought to myself, I think the best thing to do is probably to bet 2, especially for Murrell, to bet 2, because let's say Bibbiani, he's trailing, he might actually bet 3. He might bet 3 here and go for the home run right here. And so if that were the case, let's say they both got it right, at least then, I think Murrell they would be tied. I think that's how the math would work. But if he missed, he's not that far behind. But yeah, when you get mixed bag, it's almost unfair that mixed bag is on the wheel for, it's...
Yeah, you got to look at it like it's a round 1 question.
I honestly thought, we might see someone bet 0.
I mean, worst case scenario, if Dan Murrell bets 0 and Bibbs bets 3, worst case scenario, he's down by 2 going into the speed round. You can easily get those points back. Best case scenario, if that's went down and Bibbs bet 3 and lost it, well, you're going to be up 5 points, and you got to feel really good about that cushion. So it would have been a good move by Dan Murrell. But I just was like, in all the ways the wheel could have landed, this was the worst one for the competitors. Yeah, it made for great and entertaining viewing for all of us fans, because it's like, what the hell do you do here? It was a real head scratcher for me of how you wanted to tackle it. But I know, Chris, you actually reacted pretty big to this, right? Big league, as some people might say. You reacted pretty big to this mixed bag, right?
Yeah, Bibbs should have bet 0. Like, literally, he was down. He probably should have just bet 0 on a mixed bag. Look, it's any category from anything. and that risk just doesn't make any sense to me. And I feel like having Mixed Bag in a is this the first time Mixed Bag has been in a betting round?
I
think it
believe
might
so.
be.
Because
Yeah.
it's never reacted like this.
Yeah, I mean, it,
This is completely unheard of. So if I were in either of their shoes, I would have just bet 0 and just let the cake fall where it landed. So yeah, it's just a Mixed Bag is just confusing because it's basically a round 1 anything can happen question. But even with round 1, you know the order of the categories in round 1. So I mean, you know what category is going to come next. I don't think the order of the questions in round 1 even changed. So I mean,
Well, they do sometimes, but you know the general categories.
you know
you're
the
gonna
general
get,
categories. So I mean, Mixed Bag is just completely unfair to me, and I really wish
I wouldn't go as far as unfair, but
Well, you know
should
what
it
I
not
mean.
be on the wheel?
I don't think it
No,
should
it
be on
sh-
the wheel for betting, but I mean that's just an opinion. But I mean, it
What do you
made
think,
for an
Frank?
interesting thing.
oh, I think it's got to be on. I think it has to be on the wheel for this very freaking reason.
Oh,
it was
it's-
awesome.
But yeah, it is what it is. It happened, but I would have bet 0.
But I mean, it's even. It's even whether you're
Yeah.
Dan Murrell or Bibbiani. There's no one has an advantage or a disadvantage. Now you're playing the game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we always talk about, yeah, you can know the trivia, but can you play the game? And now you really have to play the game here. And it really comes into strategy, your betting strategy. How do you feel? You got to go through all those different calculations. If I bet this, he bets this. If I do that, he does this. And you kind of got to go through all these scenarios right there and then, unless you prepared beforehand. That's where that comes into play. So you're not as panicky. That comes with preparation for playing the game. So I think Mixed Bag, honestly, should probably be in every title match from now on. The way this turned out, I love it.
Hey, like you said, it made for an interesting dynamic. Let's go though. After the betting round was over, Dan Murrell actually gained 2 points. He followed the Frank Janis strategy, and Bibbiani lost 2 points. It was 15-10 going into the speed round, and these are where things can really get out of hand. The speed round, we could have potentially seen. We could have potentially seen a knockout, right, in round 4, potentially.
Yeah.
Probably unlikely, but potentially.
Well, that
And-
went out the window as soon as Bibbiani answered the first one. So
right. I'm saying,
Well-
but it was still. It was on the board. It was on the board. It was
Yeah.
possible for Dan Murrell to. Well, I guess if he got all 5 of it. No, how many questions are in the speed round? There's
5.
6.
Yeah, he would get all
5.
5.
So if he got all 5, he still would have only been up 10.
Yes, right. So no, it couldn't have happened.
So there wouldn't have been a knockout. So we're idiots.
Yeah,
it happens more than
Scratch
once
that,
in this
yeah.
show. Scratch it.
we just
Don't
leave
even-
these in for you now.
We leave these in, for y'all to see that we're human and we
Exactly.
bleed the same blood as you. We shed tears. It's hard knock life for us, Frank Janis. But anyway, at the end of the speed round, the score essentially stays the same, but Murrell has 17, Bibbs 12. Bibbs still trailing 5 points.
Yeah.
Really, round 4, I think, was his last-ditch effort to cut that lead as much as possible going into the 5th and final round, because 5 points down to Dan Murrell is not a position anybody wants to be in, especially in the championship round, Frank.
Right. And, Bibbiani, he started off pretty well in that 4th round, getting the first 2. And I'm like, all right, here he goes, going to make a run. But then, Dan, he answers right back. And then everyone goes silent on that Life of Pi question, I think it was, what year it came out. And then that Oscars question, some of them you really had to kind of like sit there and think a little bit. They really couldn't jump the gun in some of these. So it was interesting to watch this round play out. But you're right. Being down 5 points to anyone, let alone Dan Murrell, not ideal, because 5 points automatically means you're going to have to answer 2 questions. And you at least, if you're going to be down, the ideal thing is to only be down by 2. So you have to answer 1 and it goes back to your opponent, put some pressure on, and then you go back and forth and see where the chips fall. Being down 5, not ideal. And, it was going to take a lot. Even if he answered all 3 correctly, you're still not in a great spot. So, yeah, this is shades of the curse rearing its ugly head for Bibbiani here.
Yeah, and we go into round number 3, and Bibbs, he gets TKO'd in round number 5. I mean, the final round number 5, 17-14. Dan Murrell retains, and even have to go in round number 5. Bibbiani, this is his first TKO since his match against JT nearly 2 years ago. So Bibbs was able to avoid a TKO for a very long time, but he falls to dangerous Dan Murrell, which isn't a bad thing. A lot of people do. He's the greatest movie trivia Schmoedown player of all time. I think that's solidified at this point.
8 of Murrell's 12 wins rather, are all via knockout. So, more of the same in that regard for Murrell. So it's like
it's what he does.
Yeah, it's insane.
It's just what he does. So Dangerous Dan Murrell takes the victory here. Big victory for Dan. Good defense. Now he will defend his championship again down the road. He'll walk into that event against Double Toasted in Houston, Texas, with his partner John Roca, still the Movie Trivia Schmoedown singles champion of the world. What's next for Dan Murrell, Frank?
Well, what's next is trying to get a five-game win streak, because he's currently on a 4-game win streak right now. And I just want to mention real quick that this is his second 4-game win streak. He's the only player. He's the only player to ever have 2 separate 4-game win streaks. This is the second one. And what's even more terrifying is that this streak that he's currently, this 4-game win streak he had that he's on, it's even better statistically than his first one. In his first 4-game win streak, he was answering 80% of his questions. In this 4-game win streak now, he's answering 89% of his questions. So a 9% increase is insane given the level of play now in the league compared to when he first did it. And then in terms of PPE, possible points earned, he earned 70% in his first 4-game run. On this one, he's earning 79% of his points. It's
unbelievable.
You don't think someone can get better, and then they do, and do something no other player's ever done before. So now he's going to try and be the second player, or the first person to ever have 2 5-game win streaks. Let's see if he does it.
It would be impressive for Dan Murrell. But who do you think? Who do you think right now, if you had to look at the lay of the land, who do you think is going to be the person that knocks out Dan Murrell? And I don't mean that in the sense of the game, but like knocks him down and becomes the champion.
Well, Ethan Irwin. I think Ethan Irwin and
just
Rachel
because we
Cushing.
know he can beat Dan Murrell.
We know he can beat Dan Murrell. And look, if it wasn't for a perfect game by Dan Murrell, Ethan Irwin could have won that match. He's that good. And so there's no reason to think that Ethan Irwin can't best Dan Murrell in a 5-round match. Yes, he got him a 3-round match. But a 5-round match, Ethan Irwin can definitely do it. And I think Rachel can definitely do it. Even though she came up short against Sam Levine, that I always say that TKO is so misleading because she answered like 83% of her questions. That TKO is so misleading. I hate when people bring that up because they just – anyways. So I think those 2 players definitely can do it. But I think I would put more money on Ethan than Rachel at this point.
What would Ethan Irwin have to do to be back in contention at this point?
I think he's got to win maybe 1 or 2 matches because, you drop that triple threat, which isn't a horrible loss because he was very competitive in that match. So maybe he's got a couple more matches to get back in contention. I don't know. Who else is going to be trying to move up the ranks, get to another number 1 contender spot? We got to see what happens with Riley and Snyder. That's going to help decide things. And Bibbs, look, he still has a number 1 contender shot. So
yeah,
it's not like he's out of it either. And he can still definitely beat. I still think he can definitely beat Murrell. Because it wasn't like the worst performance in the world. He answered 63% here in this match, which is 15% below his career average. So that's not going to happen all the time for him like that. And you got to remember, this is only his 3rd title match in the singles division. So sometimes it takes players a little while to get used to that 5-round format to figure out a strategy. So I would like to think if Bibbiani got another crack at the title this year, he might come in with a better strategy, especially for the betting round, and kind of go through different scenarios. I think that might help going forward. But it's going to be interesting to see now how the rest of the singles division shapes out going forward to see who's in line, because people can be coming up the ranks, but still right there at the top is going to be Bibbiani if he chooses to use that shot whenever he wants.
If Ben Bateman goes out there May the 18th at the Schmoedown Live in Houston, Texas, beats Andrew Guy, I think that he puts Andrew Guy behind him, and Andrew Guy's still my guy, and I'm picking him to win. Sorry, Ben. I'm just saying. Andrew Guy's my guy. But if he goes out there and he wins, he puts the situation with Andrew behind him. Sure, he still wants to get a shot and get back in contention for teams, but Ben's goal is to hold gold. Yeah. His goal is gold. And if he wins against Andrew Guy, maybe has 2 to 3 more high-profile wins, at least 2.
At least.
I think Ben Bateman versus Dan Murrell would be a fun match. Now, could Ben Bateman beat Dan Murrell? I don't know. But would it be a good matchup? A lot of times I say styles makes fights. I mean, that's the old adage in boxing and MMA and wrestling, styles make fights. I like the two styles of Ben Bateman and Dan Murrell matching up in the movie Trivia Schmoedown. They both have similar strengths, but then they have their own, islands that they like to inhabit and really claim. They have, different weaknesses. I would just love to see that dynamic if Ben Bateman can go on a roll and not be knocked out of singles competition. Because if Andrew Guy beats him, I mean, bye-bye birdie.
Right.
But if he's able to beat Andrew Guy and go on that run, I could see that being a fun match to see for the championship. And can you imagine if Ben Bateman beats the guy that Andrew Guy beat in Dan Murrell, and he does it for the championship?
Oof.
That's some sour grapes for Andrew Guy, my friend.
I mean, it's true. It's true.
A lot of stories there.
The one thing that at this point in time, given the way that they played in Chicago, Ben specifically, is I hope, because we know Ben's very big on strategy. He thinks about that side of the game a lot, and he's working on his knowledge. If you just follow his Twitter, you can see he's like watching 17 movies a day. It's, he's putting in the work.
How has he never seen Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Hey,
how was that possible?
Sometimes it happens. I don't, it's crazy. There's plenty of movies that I haven't seen that I will never tell you just to not hear your reaction. So
what movie
kudos to him. Never mind.
You got to say what movie it is now. What have you not seen? I have a really bad one.
I've never, this isn't really bad, but I've never seen Schindler's List. So
I have one worse.
Oh, what's that?
And it's another Spielberg. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen from beginning to end.
Okay.
From beginning to end, I've never seen E.T.
Really? Okay.
I actually never seen E.T. either from beginning to end.
Wow.
I've seen parts. I've seen clips. I know the references. Never seen it from beginning to end.
Well, what I was saying
Ben.
about back to Bateman is I hope that if he ever gets into these high-profile matches in the singles division, that he doesn't get too much in his head. It gets fumbled up with the strategy instead of concentrating a little bit more on the trivia to get through that portion. But I think if he gets past Andrew Guy, which I think he will, then I think that just lifts a huge weight off his shoulders. We talked to Tom Dagnino a couple weeks ago. He asked him if he had a monkey on his back. He said he has a whole zoo, and he does. And so he's got to get past Andrew Guy, and once that happens, I think you'll see a much different Ben Bateman and a much probably more at ease Ben Bateman and ready to see what comes his way. So could he work his way up to Dan Murrell? It's possible. Because I think eventually he would have to go through. I think he'll actually end up meeting Riley or Snyder, whoever comes ahead out of that match. He's going to probably have to go through one of them, maybe both. Definitely, probably Bibbiani at some point if he decides to cash in. If Bateman's so close to that number one contender shot, Bibbiani's going to cash in on that one. So man, this is going to be really interesting now. It's really interesting.
It's going to be interesting. If y'all though out there, if all the sailors out there want to see Dan Murrell versus Ben Bateman, give us those boat emojis in the comments right now. We need to see the boat emojis in the comments if you want to see Ben Bateman versus Dan Murrell. But Frank, I think that we've covered it all this week in the world of movie trivia Schmoedown. Any final thoughts that you want to bestow on all the sailors out there?
All the sailors up there. No, I think they're good. I think just don't there's a saying too many ships in a port or something like that. I don't know. Don't put your port in a ship. Something like that.
Don't put your port in a ship. Frank Janis, this is a family show.
All right. I wasn't insinuating anything. It was just a phrase. I don't know what that means. I'm excited for what happens next in teams, in singles, in Inner Geekdom, because I really have no idea where anything is going. There's some setups, right? With Ethan Irwin and Janine, they're a team, and we see who they're going to face. Late to the party's in the mix now. Stacey Howard has some partner that's supposed to kind of I guess, knock us off our feet potentially. Bibbiani has a number one contenders match waiting whenever he wants in teams or if he chooses to use in singles. I'd like to think it's going to be used in singles at this point, just because I think he really feels like when you listen to his post-match interview, he really feels like, I think, he said it was a practice match against Murrell, and he's going to come back for him. So with that being said, I think he's really aiming to use that no more contenders match in singles, not teams. But he did say he's going to wait to see how things shape out. And that's really, I think, where the rest of us are at, too, as well, to see how things shape out going forward, because Odd Couple and Shire Wolves, that's also going to determine a lot, in terms of founding fathers and corruption and evil geniuses. There's a lot going on. And then if, let's say, Ethan Irwin and Janine, they get on a roll and they throw a wrench into everyone's plans if they come out of nowhere. And then we have Intergeekdom. July, San Diego, Comic-Con, Rachel defending her belt against who we don't know yet. Is it going to be Kalinowski? Going to be Smets? Is it going to be Navarro? Is it going to be somebody else? So much going on, and it's. I just want to get to it.
No, not going to spoil it.
I feel like I could ramble on more and more about everything we don't know, but yet we do know that's happening.
Do know.
Well, we do know, certain matches are happening, but then after that, we don't know. That's what I'm saying.
You don't know what you don't know, Frank Janish. And all the sailors out there, we appreciate you for sticking around for us this week here on the Movie Trivia Schmoedown Rundown. I don't know why I always do that. The Schmoedown Rundown, we appreciate you for sticking around. I am the boat, Brad Gilmore. I'm going to go around this cast of characters, let them reintroduce themselves, plug themselves, and give them the social media handles, whatever they're working on. I'm going to start with Frank Janish. You
can find me on Instagram and Twitter. I was thinking about last week when I couldn't get the words out, and now it's revisiting me.
It's returning. You have the yips.
I have the closeout outro yips. Twitter, Instagram, FrankieJ29. SD Rundown Stats on Twitter for more stats about.
What's the secondary Instagram you have, by the way? I got a suggestion to follow Frank's Things or something like that.
Oh, Frankenthings. That's how that sounds. Because. So, my main Instagram page is more of, cityscape stuff, more urban kind of pictures I take. And then the Frankenthings is more of just this is a picture of a cup or of something that doesn't fit kind of what I'm going for on my Instagram page.
Okay, a picture of a cup. Go follow Frankenthings as well.
Yeah, it's a cool cup or a plate. I don't know.
You can also find him on the PJ Campbell show, which I was about to dive into today.
PJ just released our Endgame spoilers talk, which we had Jay Washington on there, and I'll say this: Jay Washington, he leaves. He gets up and leaves the spoiler discussion. He leaves. I'm not gonna tell you why, because then you have no reason to listen to it.
And that'd be a spoiler of the spoilers.
That would be a spoiler of the spoilers. You're right.
Can't do that.
So go find the Jay Campbell show and listen to Jay Washington leave. I'm not gonna tell you when, how soon, or for what. Just go find out. Go find out for yourself.
Maybe he had to pee. It was like Endgame, 3 hours, man. You got to find a break in there. Chris Clark, let the people know where they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at ChrisClark8788. Those numbers be nothing. And also be sure to check out the Schmoedown Classic feed. Season 1 and 2 are all up right now. Season 3 is on the way. We're aiming for, hopefully, by the Houston live event for that to be up. Hopefully. Season 3 is massive. Season 4 is even massiver. So we're all figuring that out, but that will be up as soon as possible. Bada bing, bada boom.
And you can find me on all social media at Brad Gilmore. Make sure you check out the Hall of Fame with me and Booker T every single week. And also check out Back to the Future, the podcast, 2 episodes in a row. We just released an episode with J.J. Harrison, who is the illustrator for the brand new book that hits bookstands this Tuesday. I got an advanced copy. It's called Back to the Future, Race Through Time. It's a really awesome book. Go check that out on Amazon or wherever books are sold. Shout out to J.J. Harrison. Check us out at Back to the Future, the podcast. But for Frank Janish and Chris Clark, my name is Brad Gilmore, a.k.a. The Boat. And you will find us next week right here, same time, same place for the Schmoedown Rundown, brother.
Do you have any idea how long it took me to do this week's stats segment? It took me 7 hours. And now I have no life.